um, and every once in a while, you start a show and you forget to turn your microphone on to your social media people, and they're like, I can't even hear what he's saying. So, yeah, there's a lot of stress, a lot of stuff going on out there, right? There's a lot of intensity that's going on. I kind of picked up on today. So tonight we're just going to talk about calming down. We're going to talk about breathing a little bit. We're going to talk about enjoying things. If you didn't get a chance to go back and see last night's show, please do. Might have been one of our best ones ever. It was just the peace that comes along with um, this earth. If we want it, it's there for us. And if you need a little peace, or if you're running on empty, if you're a little tired, maybe you just need a little peace tonight, go back and watch that show. It was a great sermon. Man, we went over it last night. Thanks for all the comments, really. Thanks for the text that I got about it. I appreciate you guys sending that stuff to me. If you got anything you want to text me tonight, 806-794-0400. You can send me a text. You can send me a message on social media, and you can get in contact with you. There's something on your mind. There's something that you're wondering about with health, and I may or may not be able to answer it, but at least we could talk about it if you're interested in it. And there's one right there. So, yeah. And thank you for that comment. And yeah, if you want to send me something, 806-794-0400. So, been busy this week. Been lots of people wanting to get in before we're done tomorrow. We get finished. We'll finish about 10:15 or 10:30 tomorrow morning, and so we're not going to have our afternoon shift that we have on Wednesday, and then we'll be done for the rest of the week. So a lot of people have been trying to get in. A lot of changes in our normal routine, right? A lot of the teachers, the kids are out of school this week. Some things are different, and so one of the big things that the one thing I just want to remind everyone is the difference between type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes is when you've actually damaged the cells in your pancreas that make insulin, and you are now dependent on insulin. It's basically a very simple way to understand type 1 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is insulin resistance, which means you've bombarded your cells too many times, and now those cells have lost their ability to respond to insulin. And type 2 diabetes is reversible. Type 2 diabetes is reversible. If you want to reverse your type 2 diabetes, you can. Type 1 diabetes, I haven't figured out how to do that yet. But type 2 diabetes is definitely reversible. I still think type 1 could be. If we really got well enough, we might be able to do that. But so, I had a conversation today with a person that's been dealing with it for about 12 years. And, they never heard that before. I mean, today was the first day I think that anybody had ever told them that type 2 diabetes was reversible. I had two sentences today. I had that sentence, and I had a sentence of, well, I'm just one of those degenerative disc people. And you know how I feel about that too, right? No, that's not a true statement. You're not a degenerative disc person. You may have degenerative disc problems, but those problems should be reversible too. Those problems should be addressable. I don't know if we're going to reverse the actual disc space, but we should be able to increase quality of life and function with those two things. So I just, you hear those sentences, and not everybody, this is going to be really surprising to you guys out there, especially if you're listening to me on a Wednesday night. I mean, I keep thinking it's Wednesday. It's not. It's Tuesday. If you're listening to me on a Tuesday night, there's a lot of you is going to be really surprised by this, but it would shock you to know how many people don't listen to this show. I know you're stunned. I can feel it right there. You're stunned. You're like, what? Are you kidding me? Yes, I am pretty certain that there are a lot of people that are not listening to this show, and they are not getting this information, and they are just living their lives with the belief system that has got them all caught up in sickness and disease. And when I hear sentences in my office, I hear sentences and I'm like, dude, that sentence is false. And I don't have time to, it might be someone that's visiting. It might be someone that is a spouse or, a child or something like that of and it's like in the middle of the day. And I would love to just stop what I'm doing and go into go into a lecture, get on the grease board, and just break it all down for them. I would love to do that, but I just can't do that in with every person. And so I try to bring that stuff up to you guys, just so you'll know it, right? You know that that's true. You guys that listen to us, you guys know, number one, type 2 diabetes is reversible. Stop pounding on that cell. Stop hitting it. And what is always was always a mystery to me is why it's like, yeah, like I'm getting things under control. I got my little glucose monitor on my arm, and then that tells me when I'm eating too much. That is actually that's what do they say, the cart leading the horse or something like that, right? That doesn't even make any sense. We're going to eat something crappy and then we're going to detect it in our blood, and then that's going to tell us that we've had too much of it. No, that's not what we do. If you're doing that with yourself, if you're using your glucose monitor to determine whether or not your food's good for you, you can be smarter than that. And no one's told you that you can be smarter than that. So it's not necessarily your fault, but you can be smarter than that. You can know right off the bat there's glycemic index of loads of food. It's so easy to predict. Once you understand which foods are complex carbohydrates and which foods are refined carbohydrates, then you can determine how that's going to affect your blood sugar. And you just say, one of the sentences I heard was, well, it's really hard to eat Chinese food. It messes up my blood sugar. And I'm like, yeah, it's also rice. Rice is starch. Starch is glucose. So when you eat rice, you increase your glucose. And when that's just good. If you're a diabetic, you just can't afford to do that. So anyway, those are things that just came across today. Had great adjustments. Had really young people. Had really old people. Older people. I shouldn't say they're old. Older people. And got to adjust some babies today. That's always fun. Got some really cute little ones that we get to adjust, and we got to adjust some of them today, and that was great. So let's talk. You guys have heard a lot about dopamine, and we've talked about serotonin a little, but I thought this would be a great night to talk about serotonin. And maybe as we're going into, I got a couple things on the list, but as we're going into this weekend, maybe we could just talk about how to increase serotonin in the human brain without drugs. That's the article that we've got today. This is from the Journal of Psychiatry and Neuroscience, November 7th, volume 32, number 6, pages 394 to 399. This is Editor-in-Chief, Journal of Psychiatry and Neuroscience, and Department of Psychiatry at McGill University, Montreal, Quebec. The article cites 79 references. The Constitution of the World Health Organization states, health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. I actually said that to a patient today about a person who just died from a heart attack. And I heard 3 different people tell me that guy was just healthy. He was healthy and he just died from a heart attack. That's not true. And I said, well, it just depends on, they said he wasn't hardly sick ever, and he died from a heart attack. And I said, well, it just depends on what your definition of sick is, right? It's just because you have an absence of symptoms doesn't mean that your body is healthy. That's a very, very poor way of knowing it. The absence of symptoms is not a good way to measure health. And that's even the boys and girls over at the World Health Organization, which is an oxymoron if you ask me, but those guys over there, it's a physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity, right? So this article evaluates elevating serotonin in the treatment of depression. Key points: serotonin plays a role not only in the treatment of depression, but also in the susceptibility to depression and suicide. And we don't want that. We don't want you to get so depressed that you think that you might want to take your own life. That's not what we want. We want your body to function well. That's not the way you were made. You were made to express health. Okay? Another reason for increasing serotonin is that it increases happiness and well-being, which are factors protecting against mental and physical disorders. Positive mood is an important predictor of health and longevity. Those in the lowest quartile for positive emotions died on average 10 years earlier than those in the highest quartile. So you want to have positive emotions about things. You want to speak things into existence the way that you want them to be told, right? Man, I don't have my green book with me, but I've read that to you several times. Tell the story you want told, going from the general to the specific, and confine yourself to the definition of that one thing. That's page 7 of the Green Book, Stevenson Green Book, which is like the chiropractic textbook, right? Confine yourself to the definition of that one thing. What do you want? What do you want out of this week? What do you want out of the rest of this year? What do you want out of 2025? What are you going to accomplish? What are you going to manifest? What are you going to speak into existence? Are you going to speak death and destruction and mayhem and all that stuff into existence? Or are you going to set yourself on a path that you want to end up at? That's really the thing. Where do you want to end up? And then reverse engineer it, right? That's the way that you want to do that. So a positive mood, and I actually heard somebody say that this other day. It's like I thought about this. What are we listening to in the morning? What are we saying to ourselves in the morning, and what are we listening to in the morning? And it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to get 2 or 3 songs put together on a little playlist, maybe more if you got time. But from your drive to work, or when you're up in the morning, if you can listen to music while you're getting ready, or just a few minutes before you get started with your day, it might be a great idea to have a couple of songs that are motivating, are positive mood stimulating songs. Just listen to something that inspires you. Listen to something that really gets you going a little bit. I did that this morning. I got up early and I had some things I needed to do, and I ran to get a coffee, and I was thinking about, you know what, I think I'm going to do that because I just heard somebody say it. So for me, I turned on some Merle Haggard this morning on my way. So because I'm a huge Merle Haggard fan, have been my whole life. My favorite song is "The Way I Am." So that's so I just turned on some Merle Haggard. That's like that just started off my day good. Just listening to a little bit of that, instead of looking at X or YouTube or something like that, and all the nonsense that flashes up in front of your face, and like all that negativity that goes along with it. I was like, I'm just going to change the mode of today and just get it started in a little bit different way. I mean, Merle sings about Mama Tried and all that stuff, right? I listened to that song this morning, and it's like Silver Wings. It's like, it's not necessarily inspiring songs. It's like, I turned 21 in prison doing life without parole. So that's like, okay, well, I'm not living out Merle's song, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that song, the tune and all that. It makes a difference. Positive mood is an important predictor of health and longevity, right? There's a solid link between feeling good and living longer. Tryptophan decreases quarrelsome behaviors, increased agreeable behaviors, and improves mood. So tryptophan is one of the precursors to serotonin. Low serotonin may predispose healthy individuals to suboptimal physical and mental functioning. If your serotonin is low, it may be hard for you to physically and mentally function well. So we want to make sure that we can get this up, right? Non-pharmacological methods of raising brain serotonin may quote, improve mood and social functioning of healthy people. Non-pharmacological methods of raising brain serotonin may help protect against the onset of various mental and physical disorders. Happiness correlates with higher levels of serotonin. Sadness correlates with lower levels of serotonin. So, I mean, would you, I mean, sometimes it's nice just to be happier. Wouldn't it be great if we just were happier? I think so. Tryptophan, yeah, there we go. Wait a minute. 4 strategies to increase brain serotonin levels are discussed below. So here we go. A, alterations in thought, either self-induced or due to psychotherapy, can alter brain metabolism and increase brain levels of serotonin. So that's what I was trying to do this morning with the music, right? I was trying to alter my thought. There's a lot of things going on today. There's a lot of deadlines going on. There's a lot of things that people are trying to, get done and all that. It's like it's busy, and your brain is busy, and your brain is revved up, and your brain is dealing in unknowns and all that sort of thing. And one of the things I could do is just alter that thought a little bit. We've talked a bunch about it in the last couple of weeks with running on empty. We talked about it last night about what some of the things we can do. And so it'd be a great idea, just breathe a little bit. Our man Wim Hof. Remember Wim? Like, go to YouTube and listen to this guy talk. Watch a few videos on Wim Hof. Wimhof. Just listen to this guy talk about breathing and how to breathe. Go listen to Andrew Huberman at Huberman Lab and Huberman Podcast. And listen to Dr. Huberman talk about breathing. It'd probably be really simple just to Google that. Huberman, Huberman, and then breathing. And he's got some shows on breathing. Just something to that's one of the ways we could alter our thoughts. Alterations in thoughts, either self-induced or due to psychotherapy, which I don't think you need to go that far. You don't need to go into self-induced. Just do it yourself. Just change the channel. Listen to something inspiring. Don't change the channel right now. Don't change the channel right now. Listen to the rest of our show, but then change the channel, right? But this channel, if you're on the radio and you're listening to us, then there always going to be some good, solid song that's going to follow the show. I always listen to it on the way out just to make sure that I've got everything turned off and everything. But number 1, alterations in thought. Okay. Number 2, exposure to bright light increases serotonin. One of the worst things you can do is live in the basement. Keep the house dark, right? We want some sunlight. Serotonin content in the raphe nuclei increase with retinal light exposure. Get some light on your eyeball. Get some light on your eyeball. There is an interaction between bright light and the serotonin system. The mood-lowering effect of acute tryptophan depletion is completely blocked by carrying out the study in bright light instead of dim light. How that's pretty cool information. I'll say it again. The mood-lowering effect of acute tryptophan depletion is completely blocked by carrying out the study in bright light instead of dim light. So if you just brighten things up, turn the lights on a little bit, get some light on your eyeballs. It'd be really easy. It's already dark outside. It's 6:30, and it's already dark outside. So if you're sitting in the house, you got all the lights off, you're just staring at your phone, like you're off your feet. All that stuff is, it's like it'd be easy. And then we get into these routines of just doing that every single night. It's like as soon as we get home, let's get home and eat something and sit down, look at our phone, keep the lights off. Whatever, right? I think a lot of people are doing that. They're sure looking at their phone all day long when they're in my office, and I just have a feeling they're looking at their phones all night long too, which we could change that. Outdoor exposure to high levels of bright light, even in winter and even on a cloudy day, is significantly greater than levels achieved indoors. We may be living in a bright, light-deprived society. So get outside if you can. Open some blinds. Let some natural sunlight get in and get on you, right? A third strategy that increases brain serotonin is exercise. And we know that. We know that by lots of studies, right? The relationship between exercise as an antidepressant to improve mood has been clearly demonstrated. Now, that's pretty cool right there, right? So this is coming from, this was published, um, sorry, I went the wrong way. This is published in the Journal of Psychiatry and Neuroscience. Okay, the Journal of Psychiatry and Neuroscience is saying the relationship between exercise as an antidepressant to improve mood has been clearly demonstrated. So, what can you do for exercise? Number one, you could do is just go for a walk. Just get on your feet and go for a walk. So, okay, it's a little cold outside tonight and it's hard to do. Well, maybe you could do some walking in your house. If you can't do any walking in your house, maybe you can do some squats. You can do some push-ups. You can grab some weights, do some hand weights, do some exercise. Those are things that you can do that have been shown. I mean, it's clearly demonstrated, according to this article. It changes your mood. If you're stressed out, if you're getting a little bit fussy right now, the pressure of the week is starting to get to you a little bit, go for a walk. You know what? Another place you could do is you could drive to the mall. You could drive to Home Depot or Lowe's or something like that, where there's a big indoor place, and you could just go for a walk in there. Just go walk around, get on your feet, move your feet a little bit. In the United Kingdom, according to the best available evidence on the treatment of mild depression, exercise rather than antidepressants is recommended. How about that? Exercise improves mood in subclinical populations as well as in patients. Exercise increases brain serotonin function in the human brain. Motor activity increases the firing rate of serotonin neurons, and this result is increased release and synthesis of serotonin. The increase of brain tryptophan, the precursor for serotonin, persists after exercise, especially when you exercise yourself to fatigue. Here it goes right here, next paragraph. A large body of evidence supports the idea that exercise, including exercise to fatigue, is associated with an increase in plasma tryptophan and a decrease in the plasma level of branched-chain amino acids, leucine, isoleucine, and valine. The branched-chain amino acid inhibit tryptophan transport into the brain. With an increase in plasma tryptophan and a decrease in BCAA, there is a substantial increase in tryptophan availability to the brain. Exercise increases the plasma ratio of tryptophan to BCAAs. So, I mean, they're breaking it down for you right there, right? They're actually breaking down the science of what's actually happening. And they're breaking it down, in a way that you can understand it. A rise in tryptophan availability should increase serotonin synthesis during and after exercise, and this may be related to improved mood. It is clear that aerobic exercise can improve your mood. There has been a large change in the level of vigorous physical exercise experienced since humans were hunter-gatherers or engaged primarily in agriculture. Let me read that again. There has been a large change in the level of vigorous physical exercise experienced since humans were hunter-gatherers or engaged in primarily in agriculture. And what they're saying is we don't move like we used to move. We don't move like we used to move, and there's a correlation with that and having a lower outlook on life and mood. The decline in vigorous physical exercise may contribute to the high level of depression in today's society. So there you go. Alter your thought. That's number one. Get some light on your eyeballs. That's number two. And get some exercise. That's number three. So let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll finish this up. There's some really cool sentences that I'd like for you to hear. So stick around with us, and we'll be right back right after these messages on Life with Jason Clemmons, DC. Yeah. You guys know this guy? Oops. Wim Hof, this guy here. Have y'all read that book? That's a great book. In case you haven't seen it, and there's just a ton of information that he's got. You can go to YouTube and listen to him. I've talked to him a lot. Talked about him. I haven't talked to him ever. I've talked about him a lot on the show, and um, some really really cool stuff about cold therapy. He's the Iceman, like dunk himself in ice, right? And he's the one there. Him and Huberman taught me about how that whole right brain, left brain activities going on, and with cold therapy, right? So, which is kind of what I got to experience this morning because when I got up this morning, I discovered that my water heater went out. That was another stressful thing. As soon as the show's over, I got to go get a water heater and then decided what I'm going to do about that tonight because it's really funny. Everybody at my house is complaining about not having a hot shower, and so they're saying, "Hey, we need a hot shower." So, uh, okay, but you know what I mean? It's like, okay, here's something that I didn't figure on happening. I didn't figure. I got a lot of things to do this week, and I didn't really figure on the fact that I was going to lose my hot water this morning. So I got in the shower, I turned on the water, and it's immediately we have that circulating water in our house, and it was immediately, it's supposed to be hot in 2 seconds, right? Well, it wasn't. And I was like, okay, how am I going to manage this shower? And so it kind of gave me an opportunity. I started just washing my hair, and then that got enough water on me that it wasn't freezing cold. And because it wasn't freezing cold, I was able to get in there and take a cold shower this morning. And then the whole time I was thinking about it, I was thinking about Wim Hof. I was like, all right, this is what he meant. Get in here, get cold for a little bit, and stay underneath it. Keep yourself underneath it, and then drive that dopamine, that adrenaline, and then drive that dopamine. So maybe that's why I had a good day. I took a cold shower and listened to some Merle Haggard this morning. Let me get us back online. All right, everybody, we're back. This is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC. It's Tuesday, November 26th, talking about serotonin, how to help get your serotonin levels functioning better, right? So we talked about altering your thoughts. And during the break, for you guys that are on the radio, I was telling them that my water heater went out this morning or sometime last night, and I got to replace it, and it's leaking out the bottom. And I got to replace it, and so I didn't really figure on having to do that today, and it's just another one of those things that you got to get done, right? But in the process of it, I got to experience a cold shower this morning, which was great. It wasn't how I planned out my day, but I was like, okay, it was great, and it got me some adrenaline going, it got me some dopamine going, and then that's when I followed it up after the shower with the Merle Haggard, and shoot, man, my day's been going pretty good all day long. It's like you can turn a bad situation into a good situation if you're thankful. I did try to remember to say my prayers last night and this morning when I got up, so that's good. Alter your thought. Number one, number two, get some light on your eyes. Number three, get some exercise. And the fourth factor, you know what it's coming. The fourth factor that raises brain serotonin is diet. Increased tryptophan consumption increases brain serotonin. Tryptophan is an effective antidepressant in mild to moderate depression. In people with high trait irritability, tryptophan increases agreeableness, decreases quarrelsomeness, and improves mood. And all of us know those people that have high trait irritability. It's like, now we know they just need some more serotonin. You can just look at them and just be like, I got you figured out. Part of the reason you're so irritable is because you're low on serotonin, right? In the United States, tryptophan is classified as a dietary supplement. In Canada and some European countries, tryptophan is classified as a drug. I didn't know that. Purified tryptophan increases brain serotonin. Foods containing tryptophan do not. Now, this is new information to me. So when I was reading through this earlier, I was like, I didn't know that. This is because tryptophan is transported into the brain by a transport system that is active towards all the large neutral amino acids, and tryptophan is the least abundant amino acid in protein. There is competition between the various amino acids for transport system. So after the ingestion of a meal containing protein, the rise in the plasma level of the other large neutral amino acids will prevent the rise in plasma tryptophan from increasing brain tryptophan. Does that make sense? Because if you're increasing that, according to the article, it's saying that tryptophan has the lowest concentration in this protein. So all those other proteins that have a higher concentration are going to get chosen first. The idea that high protein foods such as turkey will raise brain tryptophan and serotonin is false. I'm just reading the article. Okay? Bananas contain serotonin, but it does not cross the blood-brain barrier, and therefore bananas do not improve mood, and they also increase your sugar. So, lactobutmin, alpha-lactobumin, a minor constituent of milk, is one protein that contains relatively more tryptophan than most proteins. Increasing the tryptophan content of the diet relative to that of other amino acids is possibly a sound strategy for mood improvement. Here's one for you. I didn't know this either. Chickpeas have high tryptophan levels. Importantly, this tryptophan is in the free tryptophan form, not part of the protein, which makes it more bioavailable and a plausible strategy to increase the available tryptophan content in food. So maybe some hummus for some chickpeas. It's not really always been on the great list, but there we go again. Here's our Baptists and Methodists and Presbyterians all sitting at the table trying to talk about religion. There's things in nutrition when we look at and we set all together and we talk about the different ways that we can discuss nutrition, independent of anything else that chickpeas might do or do not do for us. There may be a little bit of extra tryptophan there that causes a little bit increase in mood. Pellagra is a disorder caused by a niacin deficiency, which usually owing to poverty and a diet relying heavily on corn or maize, which has a low level of niacin and its precursor tryptophan. I'm going to get into some corn here in just a second, but cultures in the Americas that relied greatly on corn used alkali during its processing, boiling the corn in lime when making tortillas. I don't know anything about making tortillas. I'm just reading the article. This enhanced the nutritional quality of the corn by increasing the bioavailability of both niacin and tryptophan, a practice that prevented pellagra. The Europeans transported corn around the world but did not transport the traditional alkali processing method, thereby causing epidemics of pellagra in past centuries. The breeding of plants based on yield versus nutritional value is short-sighted and problematic. Could consumption of tryptophan-rich foods play a role in reducing the prevalence of depression and aggression in society? And here, this is really interesting right here. Increased corn consumption increases homicide rates. I didn't write that. I'm just reading it. Increased corn consumption increased homicide rates. Increased tryptophan consumption reduced suicide rates. The possibility that the mental health of a population could be improved by increasing the dietary intake of tryptophan relative to the dietary intake of other amino acids remains an interesting idea that should be explored. And that's the end of the article. But then Dan's got some comments about this that you guys might think are very interesting. And so, but corn consumption, our whole life, we're so heavy on corn in our society, and we're fixing to get into it again, right? But this week, we're going to have cornbread. We're going to have cornbread dressing and we're going to have all this high fructose corn syrup, and we're going to have all these corn fed animals, and we're going to get into a bunch of corn, right? So it might. That's why it'd be great to be very thankful, because that's going to be helpful. But too much corn might not be good for us. And so let's hear what Dr. Murphy has to say about this. He says, my favorite book that helped me understand the importance of serotonin in the brain, one of the most important books I have read, is The Hacking of the American Mind, The Science Behind the Corporate Takeover of Our Bodies and Brains by Robert Lustig. And we have mentioned this book lots of times on our show. If you're new to our show, then you might not have seen it. And maybe you can go back to one of our early book reviews that we do on Wednesdays back in the beginning. We used to do the book review, and we did The Hacking of the American Mind right off the bat. And I've learned a ton from Dr. Lustig. Starting all the way back in 2009. He's the one that taught me about so many things. One of the big things, he taught me about fructose being a toxin to the liver. He taught me that a soda like a Coke or a Dr. Pepper and Maker's Mark whiskey and orange juice does the same thing to the liver because it's all fructose. He's the one that taught me about dopamine and serotonin and a bunch of stuff in this book. It's really a good book, The Hacking of the American Mind. Kind of breaks it all down, and he's a New Yorker guy, I think, and it kind of has a little bit of he's a little bit confident. He's a little bit confident in himself, and but he just comes right out and tells you, just straight up tells you how things are. So, but Dan's breaking it down right here. That's one of his favorite books, and he said this book stresses the importance of avoiding sugar and increasing omega-3 fatty acids. Fish oil supplements. I mean, I'm not that authentic. I just take all this stuff and I just stack it up and stack it up and stack it up, and then pretty soon it's like, yes. I was going to probably say something about fish oil supplements, and I didn't even mean to, really. It just ended up being part of it. So this is Dr. Murphy. This is not me. This is Dr. Murphy, and this is his problem with corn, and he calls it that, problems with corn. All right, so let's go through this stuff. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter that gives us pleasure and reward. Dopamine is made from the amino acid tyrosine. Serotonin is the neurotransmitter that makes us happy and content. Serotonin is made from the amino acid tryptophan. That's what we've just been talking about. Now, tyrosine and tryptophan compete for transport proteins that carry them into the central nervous system, where they are converted into dopamine or serotonin. So they're in competition with one another. Okay, according to the article. Consequently, functionally, an increase in tyrosine reduces the production of serotonin and hence reduces happiness and contentment. Or a decrease in tryptophan also reduces the production of serotonin, hence happiness and contentment. So there's two ways that you can decrease some of your happiness and contentment. Number one, you can increase your tyrosine, or number two, you can decrease your tryptophan. And both of those things are going to end up with having the same problem. You're going to lose some of your happiness, right? Tryptophan is the least common amino acid found in food. Corn lacks the amino acid tryptophan. As such, corn consumption is linked to lower levels of serotonin and less happiness and contentment. Consuming animals that are mostly exclusively fed corn drives the same problem. So when you're not eating, you're a grass-fed animal and you're eating a corn-fed animal, it's driving the same problem, according to the article. Okay, so now let's shift a little bit. Niacin is an essential B vitamin, B3. Insufficient niacin causes the disease pellagra, violence, and a red neck rash. Corn is also deficient in niacin. As such, corn consumption is linked to increased violence and bad behavior. Corn is high in omega-6 fatty acids and void in omega-3 fatty acids. Hence, corn is pro-inflammatory, linked to increased risk of pain, artery disease, dementia, cancer, and autoimmune disease, etc. We've gone through this, right? We've broken that down. We've broken down that 6:3 ratio. We've broken down what happens with when you eat. Remember the DHGLA that we talked about last week, and how it works itself to arachidonic acid, and it works down to the prostaglandin E2, and then here we go, right? All those things he just mentioned: increase of pain, artery disease, dementia, cancer, autoimmune disease. So this week, instead of cooking in corn oil, you might just consider butter. You might consider olive oil. You might consider avocado oil. Those are two things that you might consider. And you might consider butter. That would be, if you had a choice, if you're like, hey, look, and I don't know what making, stuffing or dressing or whatever. I mean, cornbread dressing, it's like, I know a bunch of people are going to get into that, but you might think about it. Can I get, because you're going to use it a bunch this week. You're going to use corn oil in a bunch. It's the only time so we get everybody to our house at Thanksgiving. So we don't want to impose our normal eating patterns on everybody else. So when Thanksgiving comes, we just make the normal Thanksgiving platters that we have had our entire life. We make the cornbread dressing, and we have turkey and ham and cranberries, and we'll have the sweet potato casserole, and we'll have the green bean casserole, and we'll have the deviled eggs, and we'll have all the stuff. But the only time that we ever open that corn oil is at Thanksgiving, when people come to our house. I checked it. I looked in the pantry this week just to see if we had any of that stuff in our pantry, and there's a big old bottle of corn oil right there in the back. And it's just barely got anything taken out of it. I mean, it's almost full, and it's because we don't ever use it. Never in a year, other than when it comes to Thanksgiving, because we're going to cook in, that's what everyone around us is used to eating. So we'll just eat it. But the rest of the year, there's none of that in our house. And you can cook your vegetables. Cook your vegetables in butter. You can air fry your vegetables, make them crisp, or olive oil, sweet potato fries in olive oil, okra in olive oil. Those are things that put a little of that on there, and it's delicious. It's delicious, and you don't even have to go through those oil consumptions, right? Because who wants pain and artery disease and dementia and cancer and autoimmune disease? Remember what we said last night about God preserves our cells? By giving us shalom, peace. Remember that? If you guys watched it last night, he preserves our cells by giving us the nutrients that we need, and we overdo it or go in some other direction, and then we mess it all up. That's what I meant. I said it last night. Cancer's on the list. Dementia, cancer, autoimmune disease, right? We can do better than that. We could do better than that. Maybe your cancer wasn't accidental. Maybe your cancer was for real. I had a person tell me today, he was telling me that he had type 2 diabetes, and I said, I can help you with that. And I said, I know this. I've studied this a bunch. And I'm telling you, my father-in-law died from type 2 diabetes. My dad had type 2 diabetes when he passed away. And he said, well, you didn't really help either one of them, did you? And I was like, love your neighbor as yourself. Give him a chance. He's just hearing this for the very first time. It's fine. That's fine. I said, well, neither one of them wanted help. It's hard to help somebody who doesn't want help. Neither one of them wanted help, and they perished for the lack of knowledge. I think that's in the book somewhere too, right? You guys don't have lack of knowledge. You guys have confidence and understanding. And you guys are like, yes, I got it. There's no way I'm going to cook anything in corn oil this weekend, right? Corn, let's go back to the article. Corn is a new world food, which means that it has unacceptably high levels of plant lectins, bad plant proteins, causing leaky gut and subsequent systemic inflammation and autoimmune disease. Essential, these, and I'll tell you where the bibliography or all these citations are coming from here in just a second. So essentially, 100% of corn is genetically modified, which increases its lectin quantity, enhancing leaky gut. Got this today. Can't, my finger just won't bend. Index finger won't bend. It just gets stuck. That I had that conversation today with a person. You know where that comes from? You ever had that thing where you just can't bend your finger? You know where that's coming from? It's coming from your gut. When your hands start having pain, you got pain in your joints of your hands, your thumb starts doing this. Watch my hand. If you guys are on social media, there's my hand. Watch your thumb. When your thumb starts doing that little deal right there, when you put your hand up and your thumb's doing that, it's coming from your gut. Joint pain in the hands, think leaky gut. If thinking leaky gut, that's what I'm talking about. So essentially 100% of corn is genetically modified, which increases its lectin quality, enhancing leaky gut. This is coming from Plant Paradox book and Dr. Gundry. Corn is genetically modified to resist the chemical glyphosate, which is Roundup, increasing both animal and human exposure to the chemical. Glyphosate is a probable carcinogen, damages the microbiome, increasing the risk of leaky gut, systemic inflammation, and autoimmune disease. Corn is heavily exposed to synthetic nitrogen fertilizers. Runoff of these nitrogen fertilizers causes dead zones. Yep. So where did all this information come from? It came from about 5 different books that Dr. Murphy is referencing. Number 1, Fast Food Genocide, How Processed Food is Killing Us and What We Can Do About It, by Joel Furman, MD, 2017. Pandora's Lab, 7 Stories of Science Gone Wrong, by Paul Offit, MD, 2017. The Plant Paradox, that's one I just mentioned, Dr. Gundry, 2017. The Hacking of the American Mind, listen right here. And Plant Paradox is in the other room. And The Wizard and the Prophet, 2 remarkable scientists and their dueling visions to shape tomorrow's world, by Charles C. Mann in 2018. So, what can we do, right? What can we do? We want small amounts of dopamine, internally controlled, I think, and then we want to make sure that we're getting serotonin. We want to make sure that we don't have too much dopamine so that we don't knock our serotonin down, right? So there's just those things we could do. Watch that corn consumption, get some chickpeas, maybe that's something you could do, and then go back to our 4 things. Diet and exercise always, right? Diet and exercise. If you're stressed out this week, you can go for a walk. Might be a great idea. A lot of us are going for walks anyway. If you're stressed out, you can go for a walk, get some exercise, do some squats, do some push-ups. You can just do some squats to a chair. Sit down in a chair and stand up, and then sit down in a chair and stand up, and then sit down in a chair and stand up. When you do, keep your knees wide. Don't let your knees come together and knock. Keep your knees wide so that you got your good solid foundation. That's one way to do it. You could do some push-ups. You could do some push-ups on a wall. Just push against the wall, back and forth. Do some push-ups. Take those cans of corn that you were going to eat and just use them as weights. And you can just do that and move your body and get some. That'd be a great thing that you could do with that, right? When your external environment doesn't match your internal expectation, it creates stress. When your external environment doesn't match your internal expectation, it creates stress. So you may have moments this week, especially, you may have moments where your external environment is not matching your internal expectation. So it maybe if you understand that, you could just say to yourself, I think I'm going to take a breath. And I'm just going to analyze this just a second. I'm just going to let this calm down just a little bit and then try to make a plan to get through it. We don't need to beat our kids this week. I had parents today that were a little fussy with their kids. It's like, Just leave them alone. They're just kids. They're not bothering anything. Plus, my kids that I see, a lot of my kids that I see in the office, this is their second home or third home or something, right? They're comfortable in here. And sometimes when kids are comfortable, they're little, like at grandma's house. We used to take Jacob to grandma's house, and then he wouldn't act like his normal self. And so it's like, and we're like, we didn't discipline him the way we disciplined him at home when he was at grandma's house, because he's not in his environment. He's 2, right? He's 3 years old. He's not in his environment. Kids right now are not in their environment. They're not at school today. A lot of it, if they're older than 12, they probably slept till 11 o'clock this morning. And then they got up and they've been looking at video games, playing video games, looking at their phone all day long. They'll be staying up till 1 o'clock tonight. They're going to get themselves all out of their normal rhythm. They're going to be fussy. It's not going to be their normal thing, right? And as parents, we're dealing with kids that are home that usually are at school. And so we have an adjustment time to make. And that might make us a little fussy. And so it's like, wait a minute, we can do better than that. We can do better than that. We can just calm down just a second. Calm down and take a breath. Move our feet a little bit, and get some light on our eyeballs. Maybe just go stand on the porch. You could go out on the back porch or on the front porch and just stand on the porch and get some light on your eyeballs. That'd be a great idea. All right, we got about 2 minutes left. I got probably save 2 of these for tomorrow night, and we won't have a show. We won't have a show on Thursday night on social media, but we will have a show on Thursday night on the radio. So that's what I was doing this morning. I've already recorded that show for the radio for Thursday night. And so if you guys just happen to be by yourselves, or you're driving down the highway, or you're doing something, you're working, and you listen to our show, and we did a special Thanksgiving. We did a special History of Thanksgiving show that's going to air on Thursday night that was pre-recorded this morning. And if you don't have anything to do, and you guys are all my social media people, you can go to 987radio.com. You can go to the Live 365 app and look at the Walk by Faith radio page, and you could listen to the show there if you want to. It's pretty cool. I enjoyed it this morning, just the history of Thanksgiving. And so we looked at the history of Thanksgiving. We did some things that being thankful does for your brain. And then we looked at some scripture that kind of guided us into a Thanksgiving type of thing. So Thursday night show should be inspiring if you want to listen to it. I just won't have a live social media show on Thursday. We will be back tomorrow night like normal. And then we will be here on Friday, as far as I know, because we're not traveling. We'll be here in town. I would imagine by Friday at 6 o'clock, Leslie would be glad for me to go do something. She'll have me. She'll be ready to have a little moment by herself. But so that's the plan for the rest of the week. But tomorrow night we'll be back. I'll just say these are things about heart rate variability and chronic disease and subluxation. I really want to get into that because we kind of did a little bit last night. So I want to get into that again and talk about that. So, and then I've got one that I want to talk about also, upper cervical spine dysfunction and dizziness, because I got a bunch of dizzy people all of a sudden in these last 2 weeks. That's all I got for you tonight. I hope you guys have a great evening. Holler at me if I can help you. And otherwise, we'll see you guys later.